Myron says, draft him, period. We don't know if there's going to be another NFL season. If an NFL season, I'm not even a Dolphin fan, but go ahead and regret it. No. That's easy for you to say because you're not a Dolphin fan. So you don't care if he fails. I care if it fails because that's a huge pick that you could have an offensive lineman for the next 10, 12 years. Here's the part that I don't understand for some of you out there. Let's talk about this. Here's what I don't understand. If we don't get a quarterback, then what was all this for? All this was for to reset the team and get better. Did they not get better by getting rid of everything and starting all over? Yeah. Now they have a clean slate. They don't have any more cap issues. They don't have to worry about managing and mortgaging the future every single year because you don't have cap space in the current cap. And then you put yourself in a real dire need because you're guaranteeing contracts into the future that you don't know if these guys are going to be around to actually live out the contracts. That's the vicious cycle that people don't take into account. Okay? This was about turning over this roster, and that's what they did. Now they've got a plethora of picks. Some of you out there want to give back all those picks. Well, no, let's trade up 3-4 picks to go get a guy. Well, then what the hell did you do? That's when I would say, what the hell did you do this for? Wait, we've watched Peyton Manning win a Super Bowl with no arm. We've watched Ryan Tannehill throw for 70 yards on consecutive weeks to advance in the playoffs.
Beat the Patriots in New England.
Exactly. So what you're talking about is building up a team to be a great team. And then if you can find the quarterback, great. But you can't force it. Because you're going to fail more often than not when you draft quarterbacks. It's not something that you normally hit on. There's a good chance Tua fails. Look, a couple years ago, Mariota and Winston, they're both busts. You had Leaf and you had Manning. Leaf ended up to be a bust. Happens all the time, man.
And that kid's arm throwing in the blizzard, man, bombs.
Yeah. So you look at all these guys that get taken early. Jamarcus Russell, they end up being a bust. Blaine Gabbert taken early, a bust. It goes on and on and on and on. Look at Baker Mayfield. The first year he lit up the world, and then last year struggled big time. Now he's a major question mark because he was a one-year wonder. And then they get film on you, and then they figure you out. And if you can't counter it, you're done. And this year's a huge year for Baker because if he doesn't counter it, then he's a bust. You're going to fail a lot. So if you don't force it, you can load your team up and have a great football team. Now you got to find your quarterback. And maybe they don't want to put themselves in a position where you have the quarterback, but then you don't have enough around him. Because that's what would happen. You would give up a lot of your top picks in order to move up to get that quarterback. And those top picks are tackles. Those top picks could be a center. Those top picks could be a defensive tackle. Those top picks could be a shutdown corner. Those top picks could be a dynamic running back. All these other things that you need in order to win. Remember, those of us that are old enough, we lived the era of Marino. And we saw Marino light up the world, but because he didn't have the team around him, he didn't get it done. And so we don't want to get into that same rut. And we're now watching that there's a lot of teams out there, it's not a lot of teams, but there are several teams over the years that have had a lot of success with a guy that's, nothing special at quarterback, but the rest of the team is special. So while you build that team, you still got to find your quarterback. But can you imagine? Okay? It's nice to trade all those picks and have the quarterback, but then if you don't have the talent around him, it's harder for him to win. Can you also imagine trading your picks, your 3 first-rounders, for a guy, and then he doesn't pan out, so now you lose out on the opportunity of building a really strong team that maybe could win with an average quarterback, and now you also lost out on your franchise quarterback because the guy you traded up for is a bust. So now you didn't get either. Now you're back to square one again, and now where do you go? So now that you built up all this draft capital, use the draft capital to build a hell of a football team. Because that hell of a football team might give you extra picks down the line. And you might be able to trade for a quarterback. You never know.